Okay, welcome back. It is 9/2 of 2015. I think I can safely say that after 85 pages, we actually have a geometry of the soul for Aquinas. I think he has his geometry pretty much laid out. We may have additional content, but I think we have the basic geometry together. We'll follow the sections in order here. I've got them all numbered, but it will give us a look at the geometry of the soul up through page 85. So we will begin with the sentient soul of the imagination, where the sensations are received and converted to psychical phantasms, and the phantasms are the potentially understood true, and they are that which does get gathered up collectively to form a collective whole of phantasms, loosely arranged, not in any formal structure, but in a loose arrangement as a collective of phantasms, which are converted sensations, which they will transfer to the possible intellect for further cognitive work. When we look at possible intellect, we're actually going to have 2A, 2B, and 2C here. So in 2A, we notice that the possible intellect primarily takes part in the act of understanding, and it includes abstraction by the agent intellect as the illumination by the divine light, that which illuminates the deeper significant meaning of the generalizations, and actually in a way provides the power and the inertia for the possible intellect to raise the generalizations to signification. So the second part is going to be the receiving of the intelligibles by the possible intellect, which is actuated by the agent intellect, and it will work on the intelligibles that have been abstracted out by the agent intellect in order to raise the generalization to a signification. So it takes a look at the phantasm as generalization, and then looks for deeper and deeper signification in order to take the extracted significations to the dialogue threshold for further work. But before we go to that de Kunta threshold, we're going to look at 2B. So we can look at this agent intellect that works as transcendence here. Now in 2B, the far right, it says the act of understanding and transcendence, part 1, the agent intellect provides the interpretive transcendence. It is the mind of God as agent artisan. It is the highest nobility, and it does exist within the self's soul itself as an infusion by God. It's the active principle of illumination, and it participates in God's superior substance. In other words, it functions as an indwelling Holy Spirit. And Aquinas references Psalm 4:7. And that it illuminates through first principle, and first principle includes faith and prophecy. So we take a look at part 2, that 2C. The metaphor for this work of transcendence is angels in heaven, and it represents the ideality of first principles. It also represents the understanding of the grades of being that Aquinas talks about, and the fact that the grades of being are to be ideally ordered through the agent intellect, who will empower us and illuminate us to more formally arrange that collective, because the collective of phantasms was transformed to a collective of generalizations, but through the reflective intellect, the possible intellect, we're going to make it a more formally arranged ordering of significations. And ordering of significations is going to be something that's going to be metaphorically referred to as a transcendence supplied by angels in heaven. So it's an ideal ordering that we're going to do of the significations that we extract. And the key here is that Note 3, it's the self as an ideality prior to discourse, before entering the Dakunta threshold of dialogue. And Aquinas says we could call this the intellection in word because the first principle is acquired through the word, and the word includes faith and prophecy. So it is a mediation through word. It's transcendence mediated through word. And this transcendence mediated through word creates first principles, and the first principles illuminate historical reality for us and help us to form signification into an ideal sign model. So it's mediation through word that provides our transcendence. Metaphorically understood as angels or agent intellect. And from there we want to move on to the dialogue threshold. Now when we get to the dialogue threshold, it's based on that Greek dokuo, supposed. It means supposed truth. Because up to now, we've done everything individually. We've had the higher intuitive apprehension of the mediation through word, of first principles that are mediated to us through word, and they've helped us to order the significations that we have gathered out of the generalizations, and then to order those significations into a model. But we haven't refined the model. We have our model as a supposed truth. Now we're going to take it to the community of believers and the dialogue threshold, or Dakunta threshold, and we're going to posit our supposed model up against others who will also posit their supposed model. We'll have an exchange of ideas. We'll have an exchange of signs. We'll have an exchange of a deeper signification, an exchange of deeper truth. It will help us through dialogue to reach a greater depth of universality and not get trapped in our own individuality. It gives us a chance to move toward a true universality. It helps us refine our sign model. And so through dialogue we compare the multitude of species. We also get a better grasping of temporal continuum, because some will present the past of the act, some will present the present of the act, some will anticipate the future of an event. All of that helps us grasp temporal continuum, and temporal continuum deals with what? Eschatology. And eschatology is important for our apprehension of the true, because it is a trajectory toward kingdom and spirit. So this grasping of temporal continuum is very important at the Dakunta threshold. And from there we're going to posit a individual interpretation of the true that we see as being needed in our historical reality. We take our universality of understanding, close it down to a praxis individuality for positing into the real world. If we go to 4a, the realm of positing, it takes the body as existing, takes place through a form that's posited in the genus of body. In this way the body acts as distinct from the soul because it has this area of mediation. So the supreme ideal of the soul is posited here. Soul is established in this region because here we establish our soul as a self going out of itself in order to perfect itself. The soul's act of existing is conferred and posited here. It is an individuation of the universality that we formed at the Dakunta threshold. It's a secondary substance of essence that is posited here as the ideal form for the body and the act of existence. And it creates the power of the soul for the act of existing, and it is considered by Aquinas as science in act, because the soul is geometric science. Theology is geometric science. So the act of existing is a natural evolving effect of a posited form itself, and it represents the potency of the act of existence. And from there we'll go to the body. The body will then enact the form that's posited as an act of existence. Truth is the perfection of the intellect, acquired through understanding an act. There must be an act of existence because we seek a truth as correspondence between intellect and thing. But now we look at some additional material, because now we're going to take a look at return. How in the world does our geometric soul perfect itself if it never goes beyond its own individuation? Well, it perfects itself through the return of perfections out of the act of existence. The positive form of potency is not exhausted in any single act of existence. It can participate in something else as well, and it does possess a surplus of potency. So in the moment of return, the soul receives a return of new perfections that emerge out of the act of existence, new opportunities for perfection. The positive potency of form of its own power actualizes hidden latencies or potentialities in historical reality that perhaps we did not consciously take note of. They become actualized and emerge, and they give us feedback. We get a return of perfections. Now, the realm of receiving the return is the passion of the subject. Aquinas says the human soul is form and subject because it can receive and acquire new perfections, new opportunities for new acquisitions of the true. And the realm of return is equal to the area of the passion within the possible intellect. So the possible intellect is going to receive material to work on not only from the sentient soul that will give us the phantasms, but the possible intellect is also going to receive data from the returning perfections out of the act of existence. So we're going to get returning data, we're going to get initial data from the sentient soul, and we're going to get returning data as additional returning phantasms as return of perfections. So we're going to get data as new data and new return that'll help us refine our position. And that's the key to achieving universality and perfection. For Aquinas, it is a circle. It's a circle. We begin with possible intellect within itself, forming its own ideality, but then it goes through dialogue to refine that ideality. Then it goes out of itself, and that's how we constitute soul for Aquinas, by going out of ourself and positing, and the act of existence. And then after the exact act of existence, we return to the self, we return to our own soul inwardly and reflectively with returning perfections, with new opportunities for a greater depth of understanding. It is a full circle. It's a circle of a soul in itself, the soul going out of itself and positing, the act of existence, and the return of perfections, and then a rediscovery by the possible intellect of the notion of the true, and a refinement of the model of signification. So it is a circular process that on this particular chart, I've got it labeled 1 through 7, but it's a 7-step loop or 7-step circle from sentient soul of imagination to possible intellect to the agent intellect to the transcendence of angels to the dialogue threshold of the Dekunta threshold to the realm of positing as the genus of body through the body to the act of existence to the moment of returning perfections to a re-entrance into the possible intellect as the passion side of the possible intellect, and then the process starts all over again because that return will mix with the sentient soul again, and the process begins again and again, and each time through the loop the individual soul will be refined to a greater refinement, a greater purity, a greater apprehension of the truth. So it's a circular refinery in a way. You can look at it as a circular refinery of the soul. So I think we've got our basic geometric structure for the soul. I think after 85 pages, I think we've got Aquinas pinned down for a geometric structure. I think this is going to be the geometry right here, because we have the in itself of the soul, we've got the going out of itself as positing, and now we've got the return in this lesson. So we even have transcendence here. I don't see much more that he could possibly add in for geometry. He just might add some additional content as we go, but He might refine possible intellect and model formation perhaps, but I don't think we're going to run into a lot more in geometry. So that takes us up through page 85, and we'll pick up from there next time.